In the darkest blackness of human carnage and suffering, police, fire, and EMS intercede on behalf of mankind. God himself reaches out to those who suffer through their hands. Their service is a clear and unmistakable demonstration that God does not abandon people in the storms of life.
Well, hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Ogle County Peer Support Network. And we are recording live right here in the Post One recording studio. And I've got Brother Chief Michael E. Lewis here with me in the studio. And you're looking really good today, Chief.
Well, I feel pretty retired.
Yeah, I've never seen you not look good, but I like
makeup is a wonderful thing.
Oh, boy, I remember one time I don't even remember what studio we were in. It was out east. It was one of those New York studios, and you have the perfect face for radio, is what I was told. The perfect face for radio. Like, man, oh man, that hurt. So anyway, we're glad to be here, and today, Chief, I wanted to just touch on something called resilience, and don't ask me how to spell it. I have to look at it to see how to spell resilience. But if you were to look up the definition of the word resilience, you could ask your phone, you could ask Google, or just whatever, and this is what you'll get, something to this effect. Resilience is the capacity to withstand or to recover quickly from difficulties. Toughness. It's the ability of a substance or object to spring back into shape. Elasticity. Okay, so the capacity to withstand or to recover quickly. And when we talk about resilience, we have to talk about health and wellness, don't we? Because health and wellness contribute to, or they promote, resilience. In the natural, and I think about this, I remember when I was in high school, a little something, I don't remember who had the poster put up, which classroom it was, an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. Mm-hmm. And I always remembered that. And of course, when I was in high school, I didn't really understand an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. But we know now staying healthy is one way to prevent sickness. And whatever effort you put into staying healthy, it's worth it, isn't it?
Well, I think we sometimes put that in reverse. We say that we're not sick because we are healthy, but you've kind of hinted that health is maybe a mindset.
Well, I tell you what, it is a mindset. It is a mindset. And health, to me, health doesn't mean the absence of aches and pains.
That's good.
I like it. Now, I went out and I mowed yesterday right before the rain came, and I came in and, I showered, and I thought, man, I'm not 25 anymore. I feel like I'm not 25 anymore. A good night's sleep, and I'm good to go. But sometimes people mistakenly think that to be healthy means that you are going to be free from all kind of difficulties and challenges. I had a headache yesterday, and I realized that I did not hydrate enough. So I thought, oh, that's an easy fix. I'll start hydrating. But staying healthy starts with a mindset. But then there are things that you can do and should do to contribute to the overall health that you will experience. And of all of the training that we receive, of all of the different trainings that there are that are mandated, of all the different things that you can do, and even that includes wellness initiatives, employee health has become a recognized priority. Mm-hmm. Now, I think we were talking just off camera a short time ago that I don't really like, and I never really have liked the term or the expression behavioral health or officer wellness or first responder wellness. And I've talked to other chaplains and other people in the industry, so to speak, and they use those expressions. Well, officer wellness is a big thing now, or we're concerned about behavioral health. And it's like, yeah, I never really liked it. But I like the expression employee health,
Period.
Period. That encompasses everything. And when we talk about employee health, it would include not just physical, but it would also include emotional, or maybe we can say intellectual. And then, of course, we have to include spiritual health. So there's physical health, there's emotional or intellectual health, and there is spiritual health. Spiritual health, by and large, and you and I have been through a lot of different trainings, a lot of different programs and so forth, and they just seem to maybe touch on the subject, maybe approach it, but then nobody really gets into it.
Yeah, I think everybody's afraid of the higher power concept, and in our society today, we see that there's, and I'll change that perhaps here, but that there's a lot of noise out there against it. No prayer. And what happens the first time something happens in our country? Y'all pray.
Right.
So I think that we've been duped to a large extent on that by the culture that's developed around this, the evil, if you will. Yeah. But yet you see, whenever you get a chance to talk to first responders, and we've had classes that we've taught together with first responders, probably several hundred, and it amazed me as to how many of them believed in God and were not churched. We call it churched. And that was my story in the beginning of my career, and pretty much towards up to the end, really, before I really started attending church regularly under you as pastor. And that made all the difference in the world for me. And it really set me up for what I've termed for myself to be a successful retirement. Everything that other fire chiefs had warned me about in terms of retiring, don't do it in the summer or fall. You got to do it in the spring. Earlier the better.
Right.
And it just didn't. The cards didn't work out that way for me, and I've never regretted any of that. But honestly, that set me up for a successful retirement. I've not had the urge to try to jump in and do like assessments or anything like that. I mean, the encouragement that I had to do things like that post or right after retiring was tremendous. They said, you've got to stay in some way and keep connected, or you'll disintegrate yourself. I don't fish. I don't travel. I don't golf. I don't have much for hobbies, never did all my life. It's just a life of working, and I really enjoy what I'm doing.
So would you say that you have purpose post-career? In your retirement years, you have purpose?
Yeah, it wasn't a planned purpose either, like I say, with traveling or anything of that nature. It was a really easy engagement, and I really thought that I was going to be walking away from computers, which I really loved. I was going to be walking away from a lot of technology, which I still really love, but I thought that was what God was calling me to do, was to ditch all that. So I willingly ditched all that and started out just by simply, what do you need with you? And lo and behold, I didn't know that you were going to take me even deeper into all of that than what I had been before. Especially on the technology side, I wouldn't even have dreamt of some of the things that we'd be doing today with it.
Well, and it's interesting to hear you talking about all this, because part of promoting resilience or fostering resilience is having a purpose. And when we talk about the health of the employee, and we talk about spiritual health as being a main component, having a purpose, having something to do, and finding that purpose in, say, your local church or house of worship. And of course, you understand we're not promoting a particular brand. I say a particular brand or flavor of Christianity. We're not promoting one church or another. We're simply saying that your place of worship, your personal faith, can be so very vital and helpful. Now, there are those who are like, well, when I retire, I'm just going to, I ain't going to do nothing, man. I'm just going to go fishing, or I'm going to do nothing, or I'm just going to sit in front of the TV. Depending on who you talk to, you get different answers, and I understand that. But the reality of it is, it's a big transition. It is a transition because your identity really as a first responder. I mean, that's a pretty big thing to lose that. To say, I had a career in the fire service for 35 years, or I was a cop for 50 years. I know for my grandfather it was almost 50 years of serving, and he was forced in, and I say forced into retirement because they weren't able to force you out as long as you were healthy enough to do the job. And so he was reassigned to the city train station and was kicked down a flight of stairs. And as a result of that, at his age, he could not recover from that. So he did have to retire. And I remember him always saying that he loves being around his family. He loved being around his home. And there was just something about that, finding purpose in your family, finding purpose in the simple things that you like. And so it is going to be different for everyone.
Right.
But to shy away from something so important and so vital, we're doing a disservice to people. We have a responsibility not only to provide you with the training that you need to do your job, not only to provide you with the training that you need and understanding of how to stay healthy physically and emotionally, but we have a responsibility to talk about spiritual things because, as you said, and I was impressed with how many first responders claim to have a faith in God. By and large, it's a small percentage that say, well, I don't believe nothing, or I'm an agnostic or an atheist. Well, maybe some of them are. Maybe some of them don't even know what that means, really. Maybe they're just jaded and soured on everything. But by and large, we're talking to the vast majority who have a certain level of faith. And so we want to connect with them, but we also want to let others know that, hey, it's okay to have these conversations. People that are into meditation, well, I'm not going to interfere with what you like to do. You want a quiet place to go and do your thing. You meditate. Some people build resilience through interacting with their animals. There's any number of ways. We make provision for all these things.
Yeah.
Now we need to make provision for the spiritual component. And having a department chaplain who leads the peer support team is one way to begin to normalize these conversations.
And I think that's it, that they have to be normalized. And that's what peer support really is all about. It doesn't necessarily mean that we can do that to one another. Just talking about those things, getting them out in the open and discussing. And you'll find that most people feel about the same. But it's important to get that out, and you learn more about that person. You learn more about yourself as well.
Yeah. Well, we got to have these real conversations, and we need to understand something about the way that we're made. And I had a very interesting conversation with someone in law enforcement that I admire and respect, and we're dealing with a generation of people that it's arbitrary commitment, it's arbitrary connectivity, and an arbitrary community. In other words, if you want to, you do it. If you don't, you don't, and it's okay. No, it's not okay, because we as a people, as a creation, are made for connectivity.
Yes.
We are made for community.
But our culture and our society keeps pointing that dollar sign in our face.
That's right.
And a lot of agencies are using that as a lure.
Yeah.
And that's all it really is.
Yeah.
And once you get sucked into that environment, and so now you trade up in your car, and now you're caught. Now you're in that rat race of trying to keep that up.
Exactly.
There's nothing like a simple life that's what I love about where we live right here. We're in a pretty rural community.
Yeah.
We've got a lot of resources pretty readily available in terms of being able to go out and just do something at the spur of the moment, parks, playgrounds, whatever. But I think it's overlooked because of that rush society and culture that seems to be pervading over everything right now.
Yeah. Well,
or that's the loudest thing that you see on social media.
Oh my, and talk about just being on sensory overload and what social media has done and
well, I think it's the new drug.
Oh my. There's a couple of thoughts that I have here. Is that we talk about this generation. When I say this generation, it does not include me because I'm a baby boomer. I consider myself to be of traditional mindset. So when I talk about this new generation, I'm just talking about my kids and grandkids who are raised differently. They're raised with their electronics, with their devices, and let's face it, with our cell phone, we do everything, and I am very, very disheartened at how many people text and drive.
Well, I'm surprised how many people use those devices on their kids as babysitters too.
Oh my, yeah. That's this is the way. This is the way of the world, and we say this is the way of the world, and so now we have a whole generation, which includes my children's age, my grandchildren's age, and everything in between. We have a whole generation that thinks differently than I do, thinks differently than you do. And we want instant gratification, stimulation. We require more stimulation. Gone are the days of, and I hate to say it this way, but when I was young, you got a job and you're like, oh man, I am so grateful to have this job. I'm going to hang on to this job as long as I can. And work this job and be loyal to my employer. And I'm saying all this for a reason, is because we have an epidemic in our culture, and I'm looking at it from my standpoint as a pastor in a church. And if that's offensive to our listeners, and then I'm just going to say I apologize. But I've learned so much through my ministry that people leave. And they do I refer to it as the church hop. Now, this can apply to things in life. It can apply to families, to marriages, to commitments in jobs. But doing the church hop is very detrimental. You never land in one place long enough and get grounded to develop this connectivity in this community. And you float around looking for gratification or validation. You float around and you look for one thing or another that you may never find. In fact, you probably won't. And churches don't work together. Now, I'm speaking in spiritual terms because we can draw an analogy here. Churches don't work together, where I had developed an idea long ago. And of course, now I am senior most clergy in our community. But I had developed this idea a long time ago that churches ought to work together, because the goal is to get people of faith connected to their house of faith, to get them into their family of faith, and to keep them there. And so we can help each other with that, because you may not feel comfortable coming to my church. You may not feel comfortable worshiping with us. You may not like my style and the way that I preach and teach. That's okay. Let me help you find the place where you belong. I want to do this. And I'll be honest, Chief, nobody wanted to work with me. It was one excuse after another. Well, I got to talk to the board. I got to get approval. Now, all of these ministers have all moved on, so it's safe for me to talk this way. And I thought, man, I've got this great idea on how we can work together for the good, the common good of the community, to get them connected and grounded with their family of faith, their community of faith. And instead, people didn't want to do it. And to this day, the idea is, well, I'm just church shopping. And I said, no, you're church hopping. And you're sheep, not bunny rabbits. You're not supposed to do the church hop. You're supposed to stay connected and stay together. And so I say that for a reason, because that mindset with this generation, and it's not just this generation, so let's not take offense here, but this mindset where, you know what, if something better comes along, I'll say I do at the altar unless something better comes along, and then I'm outie. Well, that's not how this works.
No.
You were meant for commitment. That's what works best.
Dispatch from Route 7 Command.
Man, go ahead.
Need a chaplain at this location?
10-4. Attention 3392. 3392, you're needed at the 8000 block of Route 7, multiple vehicle accident. Please acknowledge.
3392 is en route, 8000 block Route 7.
10-4.
In the darkest blackness of human carnage and suffering, police, fire, and EMS intercede on behalf of mankind. God Himself reaches out to those who suffer through their hands. Their service is a clear and unmistakable demonstration that God does not abandon people in the storms of life.